Hello everyone, I am Ashwin Kumar from the Guindy Times.
And I am Arvind Sriram from the Guindy Times.
So today we are interviewing Mr. Ashwin Raj, who is Head of Rideshare in Lyft Inc. So welcome to the interview, sir.
Thank you for having me.
First question is, how did you come to know about the opportunity of pursuing master's degree in aquatics?
So during college, my third year or so on, we found out that a lot of our seniors were applying to US for higher studies. I actually didn't have a lot of formal thoughts in terms of what I wanted to do. So I just followed with all the friends who were also applying. So they just wrote GRE and TOEFL, and so I also joined with them and wrote it. But then as I started researching, universities and degrees, then I was like, okay, this could be something that you can do, and tried to find which courses would be interesting to me. So we used to go to the consulate because at that time there was no Google or internet available to research universities. So you had to actually go to the consulate, and they would have books of different universities, and then so we would all go as an outing. A group of us, we would fix a time, we would go there, and then we would do some research of the universities and choose based on what we read which universities we liked and apply. So that's kind of how it came about, and not everybody gets admitted as well. So it was a mixture of luck, because we're going blind in terms of applying to colleges there. So that's kind of how it happened. I ended up choosing biomedical engineering and then going to the University of Tennessee.
So thank you, sir. So actually, I just wanted to ask your question from your answer, sir. So actually, what made you to choose the biomedical stream? So in your post-graduation, instead of the conventional EEE stream?
So in final year, we had some electives called biomedical instrumentation. So when I took those electives, I found it very fascinating that you could use the knowledge that we've gained through electrical engineering to build medical devices, and especially instrumentation and other types of devices. So it was more of curiosity than anything else, because here it was basic theory, and I felt that was an area that I might be interested in. So that's kind of why I applied. I didn't know a lot, and I didn't know that there were actually multiple areas in biomedical engineering itself. But when I started doing the research, I realized that maybe there are a few different areas that you could try and learn about. And it was not that I wasn't interested in other areas. I found this interest to be the highest. So that's kind of what I went with, and that's something that I've done consistently throughout my life in terms of following what I'm most interested in and going down that path. And sometimes that path is right, sometimes it's not, but you learn from it, and once you go into that area, then you decide how much you like it. And this was an area that I liked a lot. And when I went to the University of Tennessee, I had the advantage of working with a professor who was at MIT initially, and then who had moved to the University of Tennessee. And he was starting a new area which was called Rehabilitation Engineering, which was building devices for people with disabilities. So even in biomedical engineering, that was a subspecialty. And I found that very fascinating, right? So then I went and actually did my thesis in that area, and ended up working in that area for about 5 years.
It's very true, sir. You rightly said that passion drives action. Thank you for your insightful response, sir.
So the next question is, what will be your suggestion or advice for the listeners, those who are willing to pursue postgraduate in approach?
Yeah, I think, two things, right? One is you can do postgraduate anywhere. India has a lot of great institutions as well, and there are other good institutions abroad as well. So you should decide what you are comfortable with. That's the first thing. And if you can go abroad, I would recommend it because it gives you a different exposure. When I went to to the US. I had actually never traveled even 100 kilometers outside of Chennai. And this was like a completely new experience. It was a new culture. We're not used to that. And that's something that you'll need to be comfortable with when you decide to make a change to going to some other country to study. Because not only are you studying something now that's more advanced, but you are also dealing with a different environment. But it actually builds a lot of character. It builds strength in you that you can manage different types of situations. So this is just the experience of going abroad and studying itself. But then you should also choose which area you want to do it, right? You shouldn't just follow what seems to be the normal path that everybody follows. You should think about what you want to do. And not just now, but 3 or 4 years down the road, right? You want to think about where do I want to be, what do I want to be doing, what is motivating and to me, and what will I be happy with. So you should think a little bit about that, and then decide which course that you want to specialize in. So there are, as you think about applying for abroad, A is what type of course do I want to do, what do I want to do after I finish that course, and then where do I want to do it. Is this an environment that I will be comfortable with, I can live and do that work there and learn, and then the subsequent opportunities that arise. So all of this needs to be thought through. But I would definitely encourage students to explore higher education. You can do it immediately after graduation. You can work for some time and then do it. The more experience you get, you have a better idea of what motivates you and what interests you. So you can choose different paths in achieving that higher education if that's what is of interest to you.
The information is very insightful, sir. Those who are going to watch this interview.
Thank you.
So, sir, I just want to ask a question based on your previous answer, sir. Sir, in your previous answer, you had used a word, the rehabilitation technology or the rehabilitation engineering. So, could you please brief us on what is this rehabilitation technology and how did you get the chance to work as a manager in the state of Alabama's rehabilitation technology team?
Yeah, so rehabilitation engineering and rehabilitation technology is helping people with disabilities. So there are people who have different forms of disabilities. It can be, some may just not have use of their one hand. Some may not have use of both hands. Some cannot walk and more. So there are like quadriplegics and paraplegics and so on. So rehabilitation engineering and rehabilitation technology, the technology is the devices that you offer to them that they can use. So a wheelchair is a simplest example, right? It allows people motion. And for those who have use of their hands, it's a manual wheelchair, right? It is easy. But for those who cannot use their hands, you need an electronic wheelchair that allows that motion. So it gets more complex. For quadriplegics and paraplegics, they don't have any emotion. So how can they speak? How can they control devices? How can they communicate? All becomes very important because they have to communicate and they have to do some things. So that's kind of what the field of rehabilitation engineering itself is. It focuses on building devices and helping people improve their lives. So the way I got, as I said in my master's, I met this professor from MIT who wanted to start this Department of Rehabilitation Engineering at the University of Tennessee. So we met and we really, it was very lucky in a way that he came at the same time that I was there. I got interested in that area. And he was a very charismatic person. His name was Dr. Michael Rosen. And so he was very passionate about that area and what he wanted to do. And then so he got a group of students who were interested in that. And the project that we did, it was a small girl. She was about 6 years old. And she had a disease called cerebral palsy, which means that she has no control over her extremities, hands and legs. So she's never walked in her life. She was always only, she can only be lying down and, can't even turn over and so on. So we built a device for her which was a combination of mechanical and electronics, where you can put the little girl in that device, and then because she can't control herself, you had to strap her in so that she doesn't fall down. And then what we did was we recreated that mechanical motion of walking and the ability for her to turn, around corners and so on. And it was such a life-changing experience for that little girl, where now suddenly it just took like 2 hours. She was on that device and she could move around. This is a little girl who's never walked in her life. So when you see that transformation of somebody's life happening, it is such a satisfying experience. And then her parents, they had tears in their eyes. This was the first time that they were seeing their little girl walking. So that's a very practical example of how the devices that we built, we were doing it as an engineering project, right? But it really changed and transformed an individual's life. So that's kind of what got me interested. And then the state of Alabama, at that time, all the state governments, they have a division called Rehabilitation division. And so they wanted to make this program into a broader program that could be done all through the state. And so after I graduated, I met with the chiefs of those departments, but finally chose state of Alabama because they were very interested in doing this on a much larger scale. So that's kind of how I ended up taking that job, and I worked with hundreds of individuals and did so many different devices. Some of them will be very manual, very simple design. Some of them will be very complex, where you have to have voice sensors to recognize what they were saying and communicate. And then we had things where they could just track their eye movements and translate that into a communication mechanism. So it was a variety of things, and it was one of the most satisfying engineering work that I had done.
Thank you, sir. You truly said that human mind should be used to help others, and you feel very satisfied while you see them enjoy. Thank you, sir.
Sir, I saw your LinkedIn profile. How was your working experience as a vice president in a global innovation and strategic partnership in a Visa company?
Visa was. I spent about 12 years working at Visa, and. Again, Visa is such a large company. It's global. Everybody has a Visa card, billions of users, and so this was an opportunity to develop technology that had worldwide impact and global impact. So, as I said, 12 years I built a lot of things, but I joined as a product manager there. And one of the first things that attracted me to Visa itself was when I was interviewing, the vice president there at that time said that at a certain point there won't be any plastic cards. It will all be on the phone. This was even before the iPhone existed, right? The mobile phone was like one big solid brick that was there, and there was no iPhone. And I was very surprised because we are all used to the plastic card. Everybody takes a plastic card and uses it. This was a vice president of Visa saying the future is not the plastic card, but the future is the phone. So when I thought about it, I was like, they are able to think that far ahead and start building right now for such a future. And it was very exciting to be a part of a team that will build that. And so that's kind of how I ended up going to Visa. And we actually we tested so many different technologies. We tested infrared, we tested contactless technology, and finally we ended up using the NFC technology that Philips had built. And today you all use Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, and so on. That's what the technology is. And so we created all those protocols, how you can transfer payment information between the merchant terminal and the phone, and we built all of it. And we put that together and created the protocols for then people to use. But it took a long time for merchant terminals to be established and the phones to develop and so on. So this was 20 years ago. So now it's becoming mainstream and is evolving. So that's one example. Another example, also mobile related, was how Airtel Money and other things were there a while back. So the underlying technology behind it, in terms of how you can use Airtel Money, where you can just use text messaging to transfer funds and so on. Now there's a lot of different providers, Paytm and others, PhonePe are all using this in India. But this was a technology where you had to, you don't have the advanced infrastructure that was there in the US or Europe, and so you had to use the local capabilities to create such things, and we called it M-Visa, which allowed in developing countries like Africa and so on to use just text-based communications for paying, for buying things, moving money, all of those things. So a lot of different things, which was the best part about being at Visa, where there was a lot of innovation. You do new things, you partner with very big companies like Samsung, Apple, Airtel, and Vodafone, and so it was a lot of interesting things that you built, and then the satisfying thing again is that now you see it being used all over the world, and it's an amazing experience.
Thank you, sir. So in the same lines, could you please share your experience as the general manager in the Amazon payments in North America?
Yeah, so after Visa, I joined Amazon, and as you all know, Amazon is one of the largest companies, and their payment system is extremely complex and good. And internally, we had two parts. One is on Amazon, payments on Amazon. So that's what today you go and you have a bunch of payment options. But we were also enabling Amazon Pay in third-party sellers. So this would be used by others. And the idea was, all you needed was your Amazon credential to go to some other site, and you can just put those credentials in. Today, you can see this in India. You have that QR code scan, right? So that's the local variant. There it was based on internet and mobile technology that you would allow this to happen. So Amazon is a marketplace, and there are both first-party sellers and third-party sellers, and we enabled Amazon Pay for these third-party sellers. And it was again a different form of technology that you were enabling. You had to manage for fraud, you had to manage identity, you had to know who that person is, right? And so if they go to a third-party seller, then you had to know, okay, this is Ashwin who's going there, and then you apply those credentials, right? And they can do it through an app, they can do it online, and then they use the Alexa devices, so you could do it through voice command, right? You can just say, Alexa, I need a shirt, and Alexa would order it, and behind the scenes you would create the technology where it would recognize that it's my account and my payment instrument would be used. So again, very challenging, good work and global impact. So that was another great experience that I had.
Thank you for sharing your colorful and vibrant experiences, sir.
Sir, can you explain how Lyft works?
Yeah, so Lyft is a real-time, on-demand marketplace. So basically what Lyft does is, Lyft is primarily in the US and Canada. And so we match users who want a ride with drivers and vehicles who can offer a ride. And so as I said, it's a real-time on-demand system. So basically what we're doing is we use a lot of technology. It's phone-based, so it's app-based. So the moment they open the app, we know where the customer is and what location they are in, what is the supply around that region. And then we also know who the drivers are around it. So in the background, we have a lot of platforms like dispatch, pricing, supply, and marketplace platforms that do a lot of work in determining, okay, if this person requests a ride, which is the nearest set of vehicles and what is the status. So some vehicles may be waiting for a ride, some may be dropping off other users. And so we make calculations and say, okay, this is the closest vehicle who either may be waiting or dropping off a ride who can come and pick this person up. And so we make that calculation in real time, and it's done in a few milliseconds, and we then dispatch that request to the driver. The driver ideally has the option of choosing or not choosing the ride. So if the driver doesn't choose the ride, then we will dispatch the next vehicle in the queue. So we have a set of vehicles in the queue that we would then dispatch the next one. But if the driver chooses the ride, then we will communicate the ETA of the vehicle to the user. And at the same time, we are also estimating time and distance that will be traveled for the destination. So we calculate all that, we take traffic conditions, we know how long the route will take. We have our own mapping capabilities. So we have a full mapping stack, and so we use that to determine time and distance. And then we calculate pricing and communicate that to the rider. And so then the rider, based on pricing, can decide to either accept or not accept the ride. Sometimes they'll accept, sometimes they won't accept. So if they don't accept, then we will not dispatch the ride. If they accept, then we will dispatch the ride, and then we will monitor if they are meeting the ETA, because we have to maintain that service level requirement. So we then monitor if they met the ETA, or it was delayed, or it was faster, and then our algorithms will adjust accordingly in terms of learning. So this is where the AI and we actually use a lot of neural net learning systems, where we learn quickly and then we adjust for the next ride. And so it's a constantly learning system that's there. And we do this on a national level. So that's basically what Lyft does.
Sir, also as a head of rideshare in Lyft Inc Corporation, have you faced any challenges or struggles, and how did you overcome it?
Well, the COVID pandemic was the biggest struggle, because the services why people need a ride are they're either going out, they're meeting someone, or they are going to a restaurant, or they're going for a movie or a show. Pandemic, everything got shut down. There was nothing. And suddenly our business dropped, right? Nobody needed a ride. They were all at home. And so we were very worried in terms of how much will it drop, A, and then B, how long will the recovery be? So it was one of the toughest periods that as a business that we went through, because we had employees and we had systems, and that you can't just change that overnight. And so we decided that we will invest in more of the fundamentals and make the fundamentals better, so that as the recovery happens, we will be able to provide a better service to our customer. So for 2 years, we fully focused on it. And we made the systems better, we made the financials better, and I think we were the first to become profitable in ride sharing, which is something that we're very proud about, because a lot of people didn't know if ride sharing can be profitable. And so we made ride sharing profitable, and now we are able to offer the same services, whether it's a single ride or a shared ride, but we made the systems behind it very efficient, and so we are able to deliver better service levels, we are able to deliver better pricing, and help manage supply and demand in a more effective way.
So finally, could you please share your comments on Guindy Times and this initiative? So that would be the final questions.
I'm very impressed by Guindy Times, and this didn't exist when I was a student here, and I am so happy that you've all taken the initiative to set up something like this and have an opportunity for students to learn from various things that you offer in Guindy Times. So thank you so much for A, giving me the opportunity, and B, for being such wonderful custodians of a great initiative. So my thanks to all of you.
So thank you very much, sir, for spending your time and giving your precious time, and at the same time giving your precious knowledge, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.